Welcome to the Moffitt Method Podcast, where longtime strength and conditioning coach Tommy Moffitt explores everything from the art of coaching, improving performance, sports nutrition, and mental training. Now, welcome your host, Coach Tommy Moffitt.
Welcome to the Moffitt Method Podcast, and I'm your host, Tommy Moffitt. If you're listening for the first time, please take a moment to subscribe to the podcast and share it with your friends. For more information about the Moffitt Method Speed, Strength, and Conditioning Program, please visit our website at themoffittmethod.fit or email us at info@themoffittmethod.fit. Our distinguished guest today is Coach Zach Evanish. Zach is the founder of the Underground Strength Gym, author of the Encyclopedia of Underground Strength, and serves as a consultant for coaches, teams, and organizations seeking elite performance. Today is episode 2 of a 2-part series that I hope you enjoy. Now, let me ask you this: the balls that you were talking about shouldering, what kind are they?
I think it's a D ball. You could buy them.
Yeah.
You could buy them from Sorinex, from Rogue. You could buy them on
Yeah.
Amazon. That's the power now with the internet, is like Amazon sells stuff for so cheap. Like I remember buying those heavy medicine balls in the early days of them coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, they were hundreds of dollars because I was making sandbags. And
Right.
then sandbags.
You
no
know, you
matter
just
how
gave
many,
me a great idea.
no matter how
You
many.
just, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I said, you just gave me a great idea. I was fixing to go on Amazon right now.
Yeah,
Because-
the heavy medicine balls are now
Yeah.
super affordable.
Yeah, we had those at LSU. We had the Rogue. They were the cylinders that we had from Rogue. And trying to think of the big med balls, but we had them up to 250 pounds.
Yeah, we have up to 150. Called D.
Yeah.
D-Ball was the first company, if you remember.
Yeah,
back in
those,
the day.
I think those were the balls that we had.
They would break
And
a lot.
they must be filled with a combination of sand and some type of
Gel.
recycled
Yes.
material.
There's
or
something
yeah.
in there, but the newer versions, they don't break too much. And we mentioned Coach Gentry. So Ryan Schumann, who used to play football there and then was a strength coach there, he told me, like, that Ironman challenge, he goes, even when you win it, you still have to work because the trophy is an anvil. So now you have to carry the anvil. So I actually, on my Instagram, I shared a video. The company Play. A couple of years ago, they filmed in my office. We created a video series called Iron Roots, where I would talk about like an old training method, an old book. And so I shared those old videos with Dr. Ken and Coach Gentry, where they're like pulling the football dummies over the gymnastic crash mats.
Right.
And training footage behind Iron Island Gym, Dr. Ken's gym. There were guys carrying cannonballs. Like Dr. Ken would use anything to train somebody. They were running with cannonballs. You see, then behind his gym was like a parking lot for school buses. So you see guys like in between the buses throwing up. Like,
Oh, wow.
running with weight.
Yeah.
They would put 225 on their back and run. And so now I got to tell you, I always say, like, man, I have gotten too smart. So my training, I feel sometimes is not like, doesn't have that edge it once had. So which is why I like to have a younger coach with me, because they're not going to overthink it. They haven't read 50,000 books like we have.
Right.
They're not going to overthink. They're going to be a little more, yes, do that rep. Whereas somebody like me is going to be like, don't do that rep. It's a grind rep. I don't want to grind. Well, in sports, sometimes we do need to grind.
It's a grind. Yeah.
So, you get too smart reading all the updated books.
You're right.
And I think it could I know it sometimes holds me back.
Yeah. Yeah, because, athletics, especially in sports like football and wrestling, there's so much body contact that, things happen so quickly that it's not like a sterile weight room.
Correct.
And there's no monitoring device attached to it, live competition.
Perfectly perfectly said, a
Yeah.
sterile weight room, which is at my first warehouse gym. What we would warm up outside on the front lawn of a gym that was next to us.
Mm-hmm.
Cartwheels, buddy carries, partner hand walking. And then one day this kid had a bunch of wrestlers. He started shouting, "Somebody wrestle me." He's standing in the middle of the lawn. "Somebody wrestle me." He's going nuts. And nobody would wrestle him because they were so used to wrestling on a mat
Yeah.
with the referee. Finally, one day somebody wrestles him and I catch it on video. So it's on our YouTube called like Underground Wrestle Offs. And then it becomes this thing that you're going to now. It became this like no holds barred wrestling matches where they'd wrestle on the grass. And I remember Coach Reeve telling me that he would teach the football players hand fighting and arm drags. So we started getting the football players to do like sumo drills, like the way you saw in World's Strongest Man with like Bill Kazmaier, where you have to push the guy out of the ring. And it took them out of their element, which was you're on a football field. The play is going to last only so many seconds. Now you had to wrestle a guy and get behind him.
Yeah.
And I found that it built their mindset in this unique manner because they were doing something that was like breaking the rules. And so now I'll do it like at my high school. We'll be out on the grass and they'll do a sumo drill where they'll have to wrestle. And I'm really encouraging our football linemen to wrestle. It's getting them to learn to become more athletic versus I'm going to go to this special place that does football drills and we're always hitting pads. I tell them, no offense to those places. You're going to build the specifics. But I said, if you wrestle, you'll hand fight with your eyes closed. And you're lifting another weight. You're lifting a human weight. The good thing at my school is the wrestling coach is very much supportive of what we do. So the wrestling team will often lift 3 days a week in season. And if they're busy, he'll say, "Listen, let's do a 25-minute lift. I got to get a little more wrestling in." They come in, they get a warm-up with sleds and calisthenics and kettlebells. Then we might get like a main lift in, supersetted with like a supplemental lift. Then they sprint back and they practice. But he never stops them from training. And so those are the teams that I train at the high school. They do the best, that train year-round. The teams that are like on the verge, they only train off season or they only train in season. So, everybody has their struggle, whether it's, I'll speak to my buddies in the NFL and they're like, "Man, I have to go into the locker room and tell these guys, hey, you need to get your lift this week or you're going to get fined." So they say, "Zach, whether you're in the NFL, the Big Ten or NCAA anywhere or high school, you will always be chasing people to train." And I'm like, it exhausts me to have to chase people. So my friend, I don't want to name drop him, but he gave me great advice. I don't want to name drop him so other people aren't like, "Oh, no." He said, "Zach, never have a negative angle to it." He's like, "So if you see him, don't bust on him and bash on him for not showing up. Just say, 'Hey, Tommy, you missed a good one this morning or you missed a good one today. Hopefully I'll catch you in the next one.'" He's like, "Keep it positive." I said, "Dude, I needed to hear that." Keep it positive.
And when I was coaching, we had a guy, his name was Corey Bouton, and Corey was the coach of ours because we used to get accused of recruiting at the high school. And the entire time I worked there 6 years, the entire time I never witnessed any recruiting whatsoever. The only thing that was remotely similar to anything that we did recruiting, we had an open house, as all private schools have. We had an open house, and Archie Manning brought his 3 sons to our open house. So it was Cooper, Peyton, and Eli. And Eli, it's kind of like some of the commercials you see because Eli was very young. Peyton was probably 13, maybe. And Cooper was going into high school. So the Manning family is walking around the school. They come through the waiting room, and Eli and Peyton are kind of wrestling around and punching on each other. So it's kind of like the TV commercials between those two. But that was the closest thing that I ever witnessed to recruiting. But we had a gentleman, Coach Corey, who coached our fourth through seventh grade teams. He would go to the playgrounds and watch kids play football, and he would go to the gyms and watch kids play basketball, and he would go over there and talk to the parents when they were young, little kids. And he would talk, and develop a relationship and say, because here the private schools are so big, he would just simply say, hey, your kid's a great basketball player, a great football player. Y'all should consider John Curtis. So we would get a lot of really good kids that came to our schools. But as far as recruiting kids, we never did that. But we got some amazingly talented young men that were serious, and their parents were serious about athletics to come to the school and play for us.
It's because this coach is showing that he cares. And as a parent myself, I like to see that. I want to see a coach who cares and who's going beyond the football field, the baseball field, the wrestling mat, building those relationships. Because, coaches today, like next year at my high school, I'm going to have 50% new coaches. Young coaches are leaving.
Yeah.
I say it's like a thankless job. You're putting in all this effort and you're still getting, kind of harped on. But our wrestling, our Rutgers University wrestling, they host camps and they go to other wrestling clubs and put on clinics. And so kids grow up wanting to stay in New Jersey and wrestle for Rutgers. And you need to do that kind of community because as a parent, you feel good with that vibe. Yeah. It's very, we're handing our kids to somebody. We know as coaches, the power of a great coach. And also people want to be around winners. So when I see a team winning, we like that. When I see a team losing, more than 2 years in a row, that's a red flag. What is the coach doing differently? What can you do differently in the off season? Can you bring on a new coach in the in season to get better? And, I saw it locally here with the wrestling team. They were losing like 80 something to nothing. Kids were getting injured. Right. And I'm saying, what is this coach doing to change that? What is administration doing? And it took a lot of parent almost backlash for them to finally get a new coach. And there's nothing wrong with winning. I think today, sometimes people who were not raised in athletics, they think that sports, or they almost are like offended by winning. Listen, I want to win. I want to see success. Yeah.
If you're losing 80 to nothing, you're getting pinned in every weight class.
This is interesting. Somebody did some, statistics in New Jersey on the amount of matches that end by pin. And basically 50% of matches this year ended by pin, 48 to 52%, which means
kids are quick.
There's no middle ground. There's kids that are training a lot, and then there's no middle ground. And so we're seeing that happen a lot in sports.
Yeah, it was a team rule for my coach that you were not allowed to get pinned.
If we got pinned, if one person got pinned, the whole team was getting destroyed the next day.
Yeah. Ethan, so you mentioned Ethan Reeves earlier. He and I are good friends. He coached, he wrestled at the University of Tennessee, but he coached wrestling. He coached wrestling at UT Chattanooga, and he knows some family friends of mine that wrestled for him at UT Chattanooga. So I love Ethan. Yeah. So let me ask you a question about your gym. And because you alluded to this about kids getting extra work in around what they do with the football program and strength and conditioning, with your gym at your school? Because at your underground gym,
Yeah.
and you have experience on both ends of the spectrum. You're a high school strength coach, but you own a private facility. How much communication is there between you and the parents about and the athlete about what they're doing at their school um, before they train with you? Is there a lot of communication, or when a kid comes in? Because I think it would be hard to program for you if you have a young man or a young lady who's lifting at their school.
Oh,
Do
yeah.
you ask them when they get there, okay, what'd you do today? Did you
Yes.
squat? Or
I learned long ago, Dave Tate in the early 2000s of his Q&A posted, somebody had posted a question about trying to train local football players. And Dave Tate said, if I was a strength coach, I'd reach out to, Tommy Moffitt's football coach. If Tommy was in high school, saying, Coach, my name's Dave Tate. I'm a strength coach here in town. I've got one of your players here. Please let me know anything you want me to do with him that makes your job easier. Now, that being said, I've done a ton of outreach to coaches from the early 2000s, back in the day when email was like a big deal, dial up, stuff.
Mhm.
Very rarely did a sport coach respond. So what
Wow.
we do, and what we've done for a very long time, is myself, the coaches, if we know an athlete has mandatory weight room and that kid is training with us, when that kid comes in, we ask him or her, what did you do at school? And then we will fill in the gaps. Most
Yeah.
schools are very basic barbell oriented. So they might do like squat and clean. And I'll be like, all right, how many sets did you do? I did, 4 sets of this and that. I'll be like, all right, well, you only did 4 sets of cleans. We're cleaning today, but what you're going to do is speed. You're not going to go heavy. You're
Yeah.
going to go technique, complete dynamic effort on it. We're going to fill in the gaps. Did you do any lunge
Yeah.
work? Nope. All right, we've got split squats today. They don't do sleds.
Good.
They don't do one-arm carries. The bottom line is we will not interfere with what the sport coach is doing or that strength coach. None of our kids have a strength coach because it's not the norm in New Jersey. But our goal is always
That's
to,
amazing.
we want to feed the program, not ever
Yeah.
interfere. And so I actually struggle with this at my high school. Is some of our kids will go to a private coach and then they'll be like, oh, I did this and that. And I said, listen, we've got 50, 60 kids right now. I cannot adjust our training because you go to a private coach. My expectation is if you want to go to a private coach plus this, you're coming in here and crushing it. So what I do is I make our programming easy to remember. I don't switch it up, meaning day 1 is lower body with upper body calisthenics. Day 2 is upper body with probably some hill sprints and maybe some plyos. Day 3 is full body. So if day 1 is a day we know where we're doing some sort of a squat and you're going someplace on Saturday or Sunday to squat, you're now causing division
Yeah.
in the team. So I think that the private sector strength coach, his or her job is to unify the team, never to cause division. And I posted this yesterday on Twitter saying, as a private strength coach or any kind of strength coach, you should not feed your ego. You should feed the kid and his or her program. You
Right.
should not be taking away or saying, oh, I'm better than your coach, da da da. And also in the high school sector with 50 athletes on average, what I do with 50 kids is not what I do in the private sector with 8
Yeah.
to 12 kids. And so, it's probably like this all around the country, but in New Jersey, sometimes we have private sector coaches who don't care that they're taking a very influential member of the team who's not training with us. So here's an example. The town I live in has a full-time strength coach. When a kid is not there, I say to him, listen, you will not skip your team lift and come here. And I tell them, it can cause a problem with your sport coach. You're
Mhm.
now sending a message to your teammates that you're too good to train with them. And the bottom line is, it's a team sport that you're on. Basketball, baseball, football. You need
Yeah.
to struggle with your team. So when you're done, go home, have a shake, eat something light, come here. We will fill the gaps. And
Mhm.
so that's what we do. We fill the gaps. And I've been using that phrase since I saw Dave Tate
Yeah.
post that. I may have seen that 2004, 5,
Yeah.
maybe 2006. And so that is always my goal. And I'm willing to lose money. I always tell parents, I could tell you to sign up more, but he has a commitment to the team. It's twice a week at your school or whatever it is. You're going to go there, and do not coast. Do not save your effort in the high school to come here. And plus, you're young.
Right.
You don't need to save it. You
Right.
have the energy to do it.
Yeah. And, they're more, much more experienced lifters and athletes, but there's weightlifters and athletes that train twice a day,
Correct.
yeah. So there's nothing wrong with training twice a day,
They eat the right
but
way.
when you have the
They
same
perform.
coach, it's balanced.
Oh, yeah. Now I have this new motto. It's a little bit heartbreaking. I said, I've never seen kids do so much stuff yet achieve
Yeah.
so little in return. So they go to
Yeah.
the high school. Then they come to me. Now they got a mindset coach. Now they have to go to a hand fighting coach. Now they're going to the speed guy. We do everything. At the underground, we start with a prep, a warm up, it segues into speed, change of direction, plyometrics, then we do strength, then we're supersetting to build GP. We do it all. But if you need to do more and do special, I've found that those kids, they're just surviving, getting from one
Yeah.
thing to the next. And then they're never eating, right? They got to eat from 7-Eleven. They got to eat on the road.
Yeah.
Listen, our best athletes, they trained with us and they went to maybe one club and that they didn't have all those chefs in the kitchen. And I think our country is in a bad spot with that. And what
Yeah.
we need is for every coach to become his or her best self, provide
Yeah.
great value. But then you have, parents want to pull the kids
Yeah.
here and
Parents.
there.
Yeah.
Look, and I'm a parent of 2 kids who
Yeah.
play baseball and tennis and basketball. And I remember signing up my son for a travel team. And I said, listen, my son goes to a private coach for pitching. It's 45 minutes away. Do you guys teach them how to pitch and do this? And they said, yes, we will develop them. And I said, the other team he was on, my concern is he's 10 or 11 and he only played third base. Do you guys move him around? Oh, yeah, we'll go third, outfield. Let me tell you something. They never taught him pitching. He played whatever, first or third. They never moved him. I'm not a genius, but I know this. When you're young, those kids should be moved around.
Yeah.
And so sometimes these private places or these travel teams, they don't have great coaches. And then as a parent, you have to go out and supplement. And that's the heartbreaking thing is we have so many coaches, but not all coaches are putting their
Right.
heart and soul into it.
Do you see a difference up there between the athletic programs and I'm sure you do, but between private and public schools and the
Yeah.
facilities that they have
Oh, yeah.
available?
We're near a lot of private schools. And let's say for wrestling, for example, they're getting freshmen who are nationally ranked, whereas we might get a
Ooh.
freshman who never wrestled. And so you
Yeah.
can't really, it's hard to compete. The other thing is now public schools in New Jersey they have what's called you're a choice school. So let's say I
Yeah.
live in this little town called Manasquan. If I want to go to another school, if it's a choice school, I could pay. It's a tuition. I could pay even though I don't live. So we don't have the kind of local built teams like we
Yeah.
once did. but I kind of get inspired by it. I tell the kids, hey, let's win in our
Yeah.
backyard. Let's be built
Right.
local. But at the private schools, you might have great facilities and great coaches, or you might have great coaches, but not the best facilities, but you
Yeah.
have such great coaching that it just levels up everybody. And so as a parent, we are in a very small little beach town. We're like a 2 square mile town. I thought my daughter and son would go to a private school because my daughter went to a private school in middle school. They're staying local. There's been kids here that are playing sports at Maryland, at Notre Dame, at big schools. And
Yeah.
so I've explained to my kids, if you want to be great, you can do it here in your backyard. You'll have nobody to blame but yourself if you're not great.
That's right.
So it's like that everywhere.
Yeah. What age do you think is good for kids to start?
So we accept kids starting in middle school. The reason being is because they tend to start getting emotionally ready at that time.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, when you're younger in those elementary youth years, the parents should put the kid into, what we always say, multiple sports, do even recreation gymnastics when they're 4, 5, 6, karate, expose them to multiple sports. I had a parent speak with me a couple days ago. They saw me at my son's game. Their son was playing. They said, listen, our son is not that athletic. This, that, the other thing. I said, well, in the fall, get him in soccer. In the winter, get him in basketball. Get a jump rope. Do this, do that. Like, well, he doesn't want to do this. He doesn't want to do that. So it's not that your son is not athletic. As a dad and a mom, sometimes your kids don't want to do something, but it's what's best for them. You got to get them involved in that sport. I've heard you say genetics are a very real thing. Some kids are going to be athletes no matter what. Others need to be exposed. If I had, I think the best guy in the country with the youth stuff is Jeremy Frisch. He's in Massachusetts. He has a gym that's in an old school where the school left behind the old physical education gymnastics equipment. So he's in a gymnasium or maybe an old cafeteria, and they're on balance beams. They're diving over things. They're playing dodgeball. They're running, jumping. They're arm wrestling. They're doing, I remember when
tumbling.
When I taught elementary phys ed in the late 90s, up until 2009 when I left, we did a gymnastics unit. We were doing dive rolls and cartwheels and round-offs and back walkovers on all the mats. And then when I left, my friend told me that they removed all that equipment, this and that. And I said, that stuff, it should be great. And so if that stuff is not happening in physical education, then mom and dad must set the example. So my garage has always had, so my kids grew up watching me climbing the rope in the garage, sprinting down the street, pushing the truck up the street. So they thought it was normal activity to be doing stuff. So they would be on the front lawn mimicking me, trying to do stuff. And they grew up, realizing strength and sports is normal. And so now I think it's very hard for a parent to try to tell their kid to do it, because if they don't see you doing it, if you're not bringing healthy food home, there's a massive disconnect. It's like the horse is going one way, the carriage is going the other way. Yeah.
When my oldest son was a little kid, I went to Academy and bought some little rubber covered dumbbells. And then I ordered online some fixed, we actually still have them. I ordered a 20 and a 30 pound fixed barbells, just little bitty.
Yeah.
And I took them in his bedroom and put them under the bed. And my wife's like, what are you doing? And I said, I put some weights under Clay's bed. And she said, why? I said, because one of these days he's going to reach under there, pull him out, and start playing with it.
That's what my older brother did. He put weights under the bed.
Yeah. And so I said, I want weightlifting and strength and conditioning and all that to be something that he chooses to do as play and not something that he has to do as work.
Correct.
And he's still, because we still, it's funny, we still have those, oh, this is crazy. So we still have those two little barbells, but we've always had a gym in the garage. And the boys, they get together down there and train still. Clay's married and has his own house, but he'll come over here and he and his brothers train. But what's funny is my middle son trains kids in the afternoon in our garage. And so he sent me a video yesterday of a little kid that lives next door doing RDLs with a 30-pound fixed barbell.
Perfect.
That I bought 20 years ago, at least 20 years ago, maybe longer, 22 years ago, and stuck under the bed because, that's just part of our life. I grew up with barbells in the basement.
Yeah.
And I wanted my kids to grow up with barbells in their garage. Because we don't have basements here. If you had a basement in Louisiana, it'd be filled with water. Yeah.
My kids did. So we had kettlebells in the garage, and my son would walk over and try to lift it. And it's like, oh, Ethan, don't do that. And then you think to yourself, well, the kids in Pennsylvania, their parents probably, when the kid is 5 years old, are like, hey, Tommy, you got to carry the buckets of water for the goats, or you got to carry the bag of food for the horses. But you mentioned the garage or the basement. I remember the summer before third grade, my older brother was telling me about this movie, Rocky, and he had seen it at his friend's house, and he's like, it was awesome, and he was training and doing this, and it was the summertime, and I think we had HBO. Remember HBO?
Yeah.
HBO, a new movie was coming on. You didn't have, you would get a paper guide.
Yeah.
And then it showed that Rocky 3's coming on. He's like, Rocky 3's coming on. You have to watch this. And so we see Clubber Lang doing sit-ups. You see Rocky running and doing behind the neck press, front press with the curl bar. So my brother got weights. We rode our bikes across the highway, which was it was known if you crossed the highway, you could get killed. But my brother wanted to get the 10-pound plates to put on the curl bar at Herman's Sporting Goods. So as soon as we bought those weights, he put them on the spin bar, and it was curling and military press, and it wasn't do perfect 5x5 or 10. It was go until your arms would fall off, what you did before the wrestling match.
Yeah.
And we learned to train by watching Rocky, or we saw Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminator. Or then I remember for my brother's birthday, where his birthday party was? It was at the movies, and we watched Predator. And so now you see all these guys all jacked. And so what did we do when we went home? We didn't sit on the couch, check our cell phone. It was we need to do push-ups and curls. And so the movies inspired our training at a very young age. And Louis Simmons said long ago, who are these kids' heroes? He's like, kids need heroes that are strong, because that's who inspires them to train. And so, my buddy Jim Steele was inspired to train because he would read about, I'm not a football guy, but Johnny Unitas, or who was the Manster, Randy White. He would read about them, and he said you had to use your imagination about what they did, or they would talk about how they ate. And so you're like, all right, I have to eat like them. So you were inspired to do it because reading made your imagination work. You got creative with training. And so now it's interesting with the movies that are out, or how things are I want to see how my favorite movie star eats. You just go on Instagram. Well, in the old days, you had to kind of, I hate to be that guy who's talking about back in the day, but there was a lot of power behind having a lack of information, I think.
Yeah. Well, it just wasn't. You had to go search for it. So if you really wanted to get better, it was based on whether you really wanted to get better, or it was just a waning thought that, I'd like to run faster, but it's not that important to me. But if you wanted to get better, you had to go out and put forth the effort to do it.
Or
I can't
like,
even reach it. I'd fall out of my chair.
like you
But
said,
I have.
what do you have?
Yeah, no, go ahead. I got to grab something. Go ahead.
So, like you said, that the teams were so large, I had to train or I would never get a
Yeah,
spot on the wrestling
exactly.
team. I was
Exactly.
imagining, what is my competition doing? Did they train today? Now I'm running. Oh, now I'm doing 100 push-ups before I go to
Yeah.
school. I may have been quote unquote overtraining or whatever, but you were inspired by wondering what is the work ethic of the
Mhm.
competition. Now, even if I'm in high school, I could watch what the kid does. I just look at his
Yeah.
Instagram. And so the fear of losing, or the fear of, anticipating pain from losing, was enough to push me to train hard. Unfortunately, I wasn't training the right way until, I became a coach. That's what really inspires me, is to help these kids avoid my mistakes that were very painful, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. We've all made mistakes.
I still make
We've all
mistakes.
made mistakes as kids growing up and as coaches.
Coaches, yeah.
And as a parent,
Yes.
we make mistakes. And, I heard somebody today talking about the difference in kids that want to run track and kids that are really talented and gifted at running track. And many times parents will want to send their kid to a camp so that he'll be better at running track. And the guy said, the coach said, you and your husband are the reason why he can't run track. And
Well,
it's because of his DNA.
well, you have
And
certainly the genetic factor, but
yeah,
what about the kid that really wants to get fast? That kid should want to squat and trap
yeah,
bar deadlift. That kid should want to find a hill and
yeah,
run it and push himself. And so, yes, we have the genetics and the DNA, but that camp is not going to suddenly fix your
mm-mm.
son as they teach him the foot placement.
Yeah,
It's
or A
we
skips. Yeah,
Correct. It is the work ethic that
yeah,
you need to, like, uh, you need to experience pain. This is what I've said to kids, because I've had kids that start extremely weak and they struggle to make progress at my private facility. And 6 months later, they're struggling to do push-ups. Oftentimes, it's like a heavier kid. I said, let me ask you something. Do you need a strength coach to get better at push-ups? The answer is no, you don't. You can do push-ups when you wake up. You could do it after school. You could do it at night. I said, you'll continue to struggle at push-ups until you're so sick and tired and pissed off at yourself for being weak. Because when you get pissed off, your mindset can literally make you stronger.
right.
And
Yeah,
so if you're not angry at being weak, you're just not going to have the fire. And that's
yeah,
why what Herschel Walker did as a kid is an important lesson, because he would do hundreds and thousands of reps of body weight without anybody telling him. So I'll say to a kid, all right, Coach Reeve used to do 500 push-ups a day. Okay, he did it even the day he won the state wrestling tournament. So I'll say to kids, I'll share that story. I'll say, how many of you did 500 push-ups total this month? How about
yeah,
500 this year? I go, if you do 10 a day, you're at 360. 10 a day takes you 15 seconds. And so everything is math. I tell them, if you do 10 in the morning, 10 after school, 10 at night, that's 30. What's 30 times 30 days? 900. That's 900 reps a month times 12. We're over 1,000. All right. Turn it into 15, turn it into 20. So it's,
yeah,
you know, but that's the thing is Coach Reeve might have been the extreme example, but I flip it on them and say he did 500 a day. Have you done 500 this year? That's nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah. So push-ups did more for my bench when I was a college football player than anything I did. You know, something else, the thing that helped me be a better football player than anything ever is, and you touched on this earlier, I was a PE major in college, and we had to take a gymnastics class.
Me too.
For an entire quarter. We were on a quarter system. And I took it in the spring before my senior year. And the lady who taught that class, she didn't play. She didn't care who you were. You were going to, if you were a male, you were going to do the high bar. You were going to do the parallel bars. She made everybody do the balance beam. You were going to do a floor routine. You were going to do a back handspring. She didn't care. She didn't care if you weighed 200 pounds or if you weighed 100 pounds. You were going to do what was required by the course to make your grade. And it helped me. That class helped me more than anything that I ever did to become a better football player. And what I noticed, so I played left tackle, and I wasn't a left tackle. We ran option. So don't think for 1 minute that it had the same stigma, that position, as a left tackle today, because we ran I formation veer offense. But I just happened to play left tackle. But I didn't think I was a very good left tackle. But I became a much better left tackle from having taken that gymnastics class. It made me, I'm going to say, for the lack of a better term, it made me more balanced. The left side of my body became more athletic because I took that gymnastics class. I was able to do more moving to my left when we did throw the base football. And I think we probably threw the ball 5 times a game. I was better at pass protection when I had to pass protect because of that gymnastics class. And that's one of those skills that you used to learn a lot, but today in physical education, in fact, many schools do not even have physical education anymore.
Physical education is really, it's disappointing, is what I explain. Yeah. And I also had to do a full semester of gymnastics. I've written and spoken about Mr. Gonzalez. He was a 2-time All-American and a gymnast, and he worked us. And I still utilize what I learned. That was the fall of 95. And I'm implementing it at my private facility. We will do a cartwheel on the turf. We'll do round-offs. We'll do tumbling. But we're getting high school kids who cannot jump rope. I started teaching jump rope.
That is amazing.
To the first graders. Yep, we're going to jump rope in first grade. And so now I don't know what's happening to phys ed. Even at my high school, a guy arrived 2 weeks ago to start like his 50-hour internship. And I said, that's it? I said, 50 hours? I did a whole semester. And yeah. I didn't even know you could call out sick. We had a student teacher 2 years ago. He was out sick every other day. He was on his phone. He looked like a bum. I'm going to tell you straight. He looked like a bum. Another student teacher, she's on her phone nonstop. Yeah. When I was student teaching, the work was relentless. Yeah. And so now even colleges are like, oh, to intern is optional. That's like telling somebody you don't need to, there's a big debate over paying the interns. And I actually saw somebody had like a Twitter handle that said, pay the interns. I said, listen, do you understand how much knowledge a strength coach is pouring into you so that you can't? What really needs to happen with strength and conditioning is it should become a trade where instead of going to school for 4 years of exercise science, maybe they spend 2 years in the weight room and they should do the super squats program. They should do the full body program, that Reg Park programs with 5x5, and they should do all of those things. And that's what my interns do when they start. they observe, and then they train with the last group of the day, whether it's, you might train with a high school group, middle school, somebody on their first day, somebody who's got an injured knee, somebody who's in season, preseason, somebody who's got a big tournament this weekend. I make them train, because you could watch Instagram and YouTube all day, but you must train for any of this to make sense. And one of the guys that's kind of local intern, he came in this morning and he went through his own workout, and I said, invite your friends. I said, train your friends and make them train with you. And now learn, when your friend can't do a box squat, learn how to make them go lighter. Learn how to cue the eccentric differently. Like, immerse yourself in the coaching. Whereas I think universities are trying to get away from giving kids work, interning, because they think it's bad. The only way to get better at coaching is to immerse yourself in up to your eyeballs and beyond, where you're Joe Ken, Big House, says when he had his baby, he was coaching on the floor. The baby was on the front, like the backpack on the front. He said,
in a papoose.
Yeah, in a papoose. He said, I was coaching like 50 kids, just him on 16 squat racks with a baby on the front.
When my first son was born, I told my boss, I was coaching at Tennessee. I told Coach Stuckey, I was afraid. I was afraid to ask. I really was, because I was there when Clay was born. And then my wife says, okay, we're going home tomorrow. And I immediately started thinking, oh, we got squats tomorrow. So I go to work, and I get to work, and then I tell Coach Stuckey, I said, Coach, I have to leave and go pick up my wife and my son at the hospital. And he looks at his watch and he's like, what?
That is college.
I was so scared. I says, Coach, I've got to go pick up my wife, Jill, and my son at the hospital. It's time for them to go home. And he's like, when are you coming back?
Right. They're so afraid that the world is going to end. And I remember Mike Srock told me, he's like, man, took a vacation. I thought this place was going to burn down. I wrote the whole workouts. I gave it to the coaches. He's like, I came back. He's like, I think they liked it better when I wasn't there. He's like, they didn't miss me. Yet, in college.
I know.
In college, they're like, oh my God, you're going to take a vacation. We're going to miss 2 workouts. Listen, they want a little break from the crazy strength coach. And it's good to give them it's good to give them that break. And I tell you what, from the standpoint of the college strength coach, it's a very demanding job. You need to have grit and toughness. And I think this is why we see college strength coaches are going into the military, and the high school positions, as you know, are exploding because you're consulting with them. It's only a matter of time before New Jersey and these other states start saying, okay, if you want to coach at the high school, you have to have your cert by the NHSSCA, and they're not going to I hope they don't worry about being a phys ed certified teacher is not like what you and I said it once was. We learned a lot. I mean, we just learned a lot. And listen, I've reached out to my alma mater of undergrad. I can't even give away the internship. They will not send me a kid. It's like they give them too many options. Oh, they want to go here. They want to go there. Well, what are they learning at these, at LA Fitness? They're not learning crap. They need to come here. I actually spoke at my undergrad alma mater last spring. The class started at 8:30, 24, 25 kids. At 8:30, I think there was 4, 5, I can't remember. There was single digit numbers, 5 kids. At 8:45, 5 more kids came. At 9 a.m., 5 more kids came. At 9:10, 5 more kids came. Nothing was said. When I was an undergrad, if you were late, The teacher locked
They
the
closed the
door.
door.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was afraid to be late. Now you're late. It's like sometimes,
But
as a coach, you look back, you're like, oh, I was so tough on this kid, that kid. Having kids has made me such a better coach because now I try to coach. I try to impact the human, the
yeah,
life, not just the sport, because as we get older, we realize like sports is this aspect, this piece
yeah,
of the puzzle. And it's like, well, I only help them run faster or win
yeah,
more. Like what
yeah,
I hope it impacts beyond. And so, I don't know, I'm not that old, but I've been coaching a while. So it's cool to sometimes hear back from the kids I've trained. They're like, I'm still living the code. I'm still doing this, or,
yeah.
you know,
That's right.
yeah, I'm still training. I'll never stop. And then you're like, awesome.
Yeah. Well, Coach Saban says that you're either playing for something or you're just out there playing. And when you have to overcome adversity, when you strain and you do tough things and you have to peel yourself up off the ground at times, whether you're doing an internship or you're trying to raise a young child and you've got kids all over the place and your wife wants you to cook dinner and you've got and you're running a business on top of everything that you're trying to do. That adversity builds strength, just like the barbell builds strength. It builds mental strength, mental toughness. It builds a lot of things. It helps to develop a lot of intangibles that will follow you throughout the rest of your life. And long after you hang the cleats up or the headgear up, or you put away the court shoes or the racket, those lessons that you learned in your gym and you learned in college or you learned through grinding through the tough days, that stuff makes you stronger.
I'm still
It really does.
using lessons learned from my wrestling coaches to this
Yeah.
day. I still do. And I'll say this, like you said, we're not going to learn lessons from the easy way. And
Yeah.
so for the parents who might be listening, you have to understand that your son or daughter, whatever sport they're playing, they must go through challenging
Yeah.
times if there's going to be lessons learned. Because if it's, what's the saying? If it does not challenge you, it does not change you.
Yeah. That's right. And that's the same thing with college football, college baseball, college basketball. If the coach so here's another quote from Nick Saban. He would, when talking about, a kid not starting, or, what are we going to tell this young man about, he's being demoted or he's not going to start or he's moving positions. And coach would say, well, sooner or later, he has to learn he might not just be good enough. And so instead of kids grinding it out, now they jump in the portal or they opt out and they look for an easier way versus grinding through things and overcoming adversity.
And look, some people are are against that. They say, hey, what about the coaches? They leave when they have a better job as
Yeah.
well. Yeah, that's very true. But without a doubt, the portal, some kids maybe gone through a school where they definitely won't start. But
Yeah.
I remember this kid was at Penn State, and his name's Anthony Cassar. He wound up winning a national title. He didn't, at the time when he was interviewed, there was a kid in front of him who was an All-American, and they said, Anthony, like, do you want to just transfer to another school because John Smith, who's in front of you, is ranked fourth? He's like, no, I want to be the best in the country. So if I can't beat him, then why do I got to go somewhere else? I'm going to do it right here. And that's a very unique and powerful way of thinking that not every kid can acquire right away. But if you want, I did a podcast yesterday with Anthony Schlegel. He said, I went to the Ohio State Buckeyes. I left Air Force. He's like, I knew these other three guys were in my position. But that's what challenged me to get better. is
Yeah.
knowing that I had competition. And so
Mhm.
you have to believe you're in the right place as a kid.
Yeah.
And that's why I think don't rush the situation. I tell kids, that we're training, I said, when you're going to commit to a school, is this coach like your next parent? That's essentially, you need to feel like this is your next family. So if you don't
Mhm.
have that feeling in your gut, if it's not a hell yes, then it's a no. Don't
Yeah.
make a bad decision. Really be confident that, this coach is going to love you and push you to where you need to be.
Yeah. Well, Zach, I could sit here and talk to you all day.
All day, brother.
Yeah. It's kind of like, when we first met, we met at Summer Strong,
Yes.
and, I felt like we kind of hit it off, because we think so similar to one another. In fact, we never stayed on the script at all. We just started talking.
Yeah. And you know what? You reminded me. Didn't we talk about Dr. Ken sending you the paperweight? Was that you?
Yes.
I have
Yes.
one. I think it's upstairs.
He sent me a pair of those York paperweights.
Yes. So,
Dang, I should have had those here. Dadgummit.
I think I left it in the entrance to the office, but Ivan Linseer from Ivanko sent me one a couple weeks ago, and it's upstairs. I don't know how many of them they made, but they were special. And I never met Dr. Ken, but
yeah.
So
they're like the size of this eraser right here.
Yeah.
And so at Mr. Soren Pops, he must have had like 20 of them.
I know. I have mine. Mine's upstairs. I'll send you a photo later.
Dang. Yeah. Yeah. So it's the little things like that that are the reasons why this profession is so important to me, because every book that I have that I'm surrounded by has some significance attached to it. And there may be a sentence or two in that book that I'll constantly go back to, because it has such a significant meaning to me. And in fact, those two dumbbells that Dr. Ken sent me, so I don't, like, if you come in my house, you're not going to see a bunch of Tennessee, LSU, and Miami trophies and stuff like that. There's really the only trophies that, or anything that you see in my house that has anything to do with my career. I have some replica national championship trophies that we have displayed, and I have those two dumbbells that are in our dining room on a little shelf, and they've sat there, and my wife has displayed them every home, because she understands the significance of them also. And my wife has always conveniently displayed those, and they're more prominent than the national championship trophies that I have.
I'm so upset it's not on my desk. It's
dadgummit, I forgot.
I'll send you a photo.
But for the listeners, so Dr. Ken, owned Iron Island Gym, because Mr. Soren has some Iron Island Gym plates. They were lavender. They're not even purple. They're lavender and yellow plates. They're old York plates.
Yeah, he designed them.
And
Pop's design.
Yes. And they were, and so Dr. Ken, he wrote for everyone. Was a great writer, a great strength coach, a master of strength and conditioning.
Yes.
And I hired his son, Kevin, to work for me at the University of Miami.
Oh, Tolbert.
And
wow.
Yeah, Kevin Tolbert worked for me. He was an assistant strength coach at Miami. And after hiring him, Dr. Ken, and I still have the letter, Dr. Ken wrote me a letter. It was typed. It wasn't handwritten, but he typed a letter and sent it to me. And in the letter was those two dumbbells. and two York dumbbells. They're replicas and they're this big.
Yeah.
And of all the memorabilia that I have, that is the best thing that I have. To me, it's the most valuable piece of memorabilia that I have because it was sent to me by Dr. Ken.
That's amazing. And you mentioned
Yeah.
Milo. I used to have Milo magazines, so I probably gave them away or sold them on eBay.
Yeah.
And ironically, last night I'm on eBay. I'm like, I need to read Milo again.
Yeah.
I love it because, like you said, it's a reminder of the work. When we later on this week, send me some photos of the books you have. I wonder if there's anything I don't have that will inspire me to get the book and other books.
So, all right, we were talking about dinosaur training the other day. I looked on, I went to Apple because my particular copy is in storage because I have so many books, but, when I moved out of my office, I put it in storage, and it's a pain to go over there and dig through all those boxes. But I looked it up on eBay. It was $56.
Yeah, I don't think it's in print anymore. And you know what else I have? Yeah. The guy who gave me the VHS tapes of Dr. Ken, he gave me the Dinosaur Training Files, which was a monthly print newsletter. And so so everything is like, we're going to do some dino cardio, and it's like carrying an anvil up and down your basement stairs 20 times. Everything was like dino this, dino that. I'll send you photos later on.
So here's a book. I don't know if you've seen this one, I bought this book from the International Weightlifting Federation, and it's worn out. The copyright is 1988, and I paid probably $30. I wrote a check and put it in the mail, and I got the book. It took me months to get the book because it's from Budapest, Hungary, and I think it's Budapest. Yeah, Budapest. From Budapest. I'm sorry, Budapest, Hungary. And so I was talking to a coach about this book not long ago, and it's on weightlifting, but it's called Weightlifting Fitness for All Sports. And it's a phenomenal book. I mean, it is truly a phenomenal text. It's not a book. It's a text for not just weightlifting, but strength training and all kinds of stuff. So this book sells for $1,000. I paid like $36 for it in 1988.
It's crazy.
Sells for $1,000. Well, mine wouldn't because mine is broken, so mine's not going to sell for $1,000.
Looks like the condition of my first Arnold's Encyclopedia of Modern Bodybuilding. We bought it in the mid '80s, but it's heartbreaking when we see the old books, and even like now, people collect York barbell, York globes. They don't use them. It's like sitting in some room like where your child would normally sleep. It's like, hey, I used to buy that stuff because I wanted to lift. And I wanted to feel the history of maybe was I using a dumbbell from the circus from Coney Island that the Mighty Atom used, or John Grimmick trained with these dumbbells. I didn't use it to shine it up and put it in a room and stare at it. I want to train with that stuff. And that's what we do. Well, like I have the Iron Island plates, York deep dish plates, York globes. We lift on it. They will not sit in my gym and collect dust. And I'm not going to sell it on eBay for $500 or $5,000. No. Like I have a circus dumbbell, 150 pounds. People have offered me money, and I said, you can't buy this. They're like, what if I offer you $10,000? I go, no, because I'll regret it. I could make the $10,000, but I'll never find that 150-pound dumbbell
that's right.
again.
Yeah, that's right. You're correct. Well, Zach, I appreciate you coming on here today. Hey, look, we've been going for 2 hours and 9 minutes. So, and And again, we could go for 2 hours more, but I know that you have work going, and we're fixing to get a classic South Louisiana storm, so I might lose power.
Okay.
So,
oh wow, okay,
yeah. So I appreciate your time.
Sure.
Please visit Zach's website, zachstrength.com.
Yes.
You can find him on Facebook, correct? No, Facebook,
Instagram, Facebook, YouTube.
Yeah, that's right.
All the same handle. Z
Yes.
Evanesh.
Yeah, Z Evanesh. Make sure you give him a follow. And if you get an opportunity to visit with him, I hope you enjoyed as much as I have.
This was great,
yeah.
Coach. And I know when we hang up, I have to leave this open, right? So it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, send me photos of some of your old books.
I am.
And I will send you a photo of my paperweight dumbbell.
Good deal.
All right,
Good
brother.
deal.
Thank you,
Take
Coach.
care.
Talk to you soon.
All right, man. All right. Bye-bye. This brings us to the end of today's podcast, episode 2 of 2 parts that I did with Zach. I hope that you enjoyed it. The response to this podcast and all of our podcasts has been amazing, and I appreciate everyone that continues to listen and shares it with their friends. For more information about the Moffitt Method program and everything that we have to offer, please visit our website, themoffittmethod.fit. For more information on the Moffitt Method program and everything that we have to offer, please email us at info@themoffittmethod.fit. Thank you for joining us for these 2 episodes, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye-bye.